feel the kick inside. Oh, fire. World, everybody's out there crying to be heard, but I got a new fire burning my heart, lighting up the darkness and moving like a meteorite. Oh, fire. Oh, fire. Oh, fire. Ready? We ready to go? Hi, welcome to RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm RenéMarie. We had some technical difficulties, but in life, challenges arise. But that never stops us from really doing our purpose. And our purpose is to bring stroke and aphasia awareness and all the outskirts and all the extras, things that you wouldn't think of that really stem from strokes and aphasia, but really is the bigger picture. And that's what this show is about. In a little bit, I'll let Judy share read the press that she actually wrote up for this show, and she always writes up for the shows. She does an extraordinary job. We want to welcome you to our 9th season of RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. We're so honored and privileged to have the opportunity to bring to you our purpose, and thank you so much for watching us and letting us into your cars and your homes and your work areas and your living rooms and all that kind of stuff, because what we love what we do, and we really want to make sure that we're doing it correctly, and we're really bringing some light and information to you, and some joy and music as well. I really have some thank yous that I really want to give out to some of our how do I put it, people that have really been important along the way, who have left us far too soon. One of those people is Elaine Adler. She passed away recently at 90 plus years old. She really was an important part of my journey to have a telethon. I went there one time to perform, and she was graciously walked me around the studio and showed me the back end of what it took to operate this Adler's Aphasia Center. And that was where the inspiration for a telethon came up. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off in my head about Jerry Lewis and how we always did a telethon and with music. And that was the inspiration to that. So our foundation is going to be making a donation in Elaine's name through our telethon. So stay tuned for more information on that. We're very grateful to Elaine and her husband Michael for all the work they've done to bring aphasia to light, because it wasn't and there was no name to the situation that happens after you have a stroke or a brain injury. The other person that left us far too soon is Carlos. He was one of our technical directors and videographer for our foundation. He left us on a surprise, and we want to give our heartfelt gratitude and for allowing Michael to be a part of our world, to his family. And we hope they're doing well. The other one is Max. Gomez, right, Judy?
Max Gomez.
Matt Gomez. He was a CBS correspondent. He was on our show with Elaine. No, what's her name? I forget her name. I'm so sorry. I'll look back and let
head
you know.
injury.
Yeah, the head injury of Long Island. She came on, and he came on via video. So we're honored and privileged, and we're so sorry to his family. But
it was Elaine
Giordano. Yes. So we really wanted to take this opportunity to share, and we'll share a little bit more in our first show, since we're running a little behind on this show. I really want to start this show off before Judy reads the press to say, things happen in life for a reason. And I posted before every show, I always post photos of myself, just like to bring light to everybody, to kind of bring everybody together, to say, okay, here we go. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a great show. But I've been struggling with something personal in my life. And it really has been very, 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 very challenging. Although you don't see that in the photos, right? You see me smiling. And the reason I share that is because I got inspired to say that on the photos, because this show is about the Rotary and about Teresa's book and Teresa's work, What Happens the Day After, and Tom's work that he does with the Rotary, with Judy. I'm going to let Judy say all that, but you don't know what someone is feeling. You have no idea the backdrop of what they're feeling inside. So I just wanted to really stop for a moment and have everybody understand that you don't know what's going on in somebody's head or what they're walking the path, because you see them smiling. So always be aware of that. Always be aware of that. Judy, you can read the press for me, please.
First, I'd like to welcome our special guest, Rotary District Governor Tom Crowley from Rotary District 7255, and Teresa St. Francis, who is our returning guest. She's a medium, and she's on a mission to help save lives. Tom will be discussing spreading the word and helping our district with issues of mental health, depression, and possible suicide that can be helpful, not only in our area, but all over the world. District Governor Tom Crowley has been a member of the Hampton Bays Rotary Club since 1987-88. He has served as an area rep, assistant governor, lieutenant governor, the district insurance liaison, and the Polio Plus Chairperson during his 35 plus years in Rotary and has spent the past 2 to 3 years working as part of the track leadership team preparing for his year 2023-2024 as district governor. Tom is in the insurance business, married to his fellow Rotarian, Julie, since 1988, and they share 3 great children, Kelly, Jack, and fellow Rotarian Anna, and they have 1 grandchild, Lydia. Tom states that his children and grandchildren are future Rotarians, whether they know it or not. The motto of Rotary is service above self. Teresa St. Francis is a medium on a mission, as I said, to help save lives. During her youth, she suffered from depression and anxiety and didn't share this with anyone. Inside, she felt detached and worthless and often contemplated suicide. Each time this occurred, her guardian angel appeared and talked to her. She learned so much from her own experiences and from the work she does as a gifted spiritual messenger. Teresa authored a 5-star suicide prevention book, What Happens the Day After? Messages from Adolescent Suicides. Her book provides a positively insightful view of the interactive healing aspects of spiritual communication. If you think that your life does not matter and you're having problems coping with bullying, depression, anxiety, fear, drug addiction, rejection, or anything else, there is help. You're not alone. You are important. You have a purpose. Teresa will share the healing tools to help you find the way into a better state of being and working together spiritually to give you the life that you love. Let's welcome both Tom Crowley and Teresa St. Francis to our show.
Thank you,
Morning.
Judy.
Morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Teresa. I know we spoke a little bit in the Zoom green room, as we call it, but we're really honored and privileged to have this opportunity. And thank you so much for your patience this morning because it's our premiere show and we had a lot of information to talk about. And for Jim, our studio, our technical difficulties, which was probably my fault. So yes, it was my fault. Anyway, so let's get to it a little bit. Tom, I really want to start the show off with talk about Rotary. I know Judy knows it. I know Judy's been a part of it for many, many years, but talk about the purpose of Rotary. Because I think it's a wonderful organization. So tell us a little bit about that.
So that's about an hour conversation. So I'll give you the nutshell.
Yeah.
So there are 1.4 million Rotarians throughout the world in over 200 countries and over 40,000 clubs between Rotary clubs and what we call Rotaract clubs. The new slogan, the branding slogan that Rotary's come up with to try and make us more 21st century is Rotarians are people of action working together to create lasting change throughout the world and in our communities. And I think that's a very apt description. Our district, which is Brooklyn, Queens, Suffolk, and Nassau counties, there are 62 Rotary clubs and around 1,400 members. And each year, those clubs raise well in excess of $1 million through fundraisers and donate it back into their communities. But more importantly, they're donating thousands and thousands of hours. They're in the community, rolling their shirt sleeves up, cleaning parks, cleaning beaches, feeding the hungry, helping the homeless, working with veterans. So Rotarians really, when you get right down to it, are people who want to help other people. We don't have a single focus. We have Rotary International has declared 7 areas of focus: promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water and sanitation, saving mothers and children, supporting education, growing local economies, and protecting the environment. So those 7 areas you tend to see, and they weren't created to say the clubs do these things. They were created because Rotary saw that clubs were doing those things. So they said, let's create these areas of focus so that we can remind all of you what you're doing, share your successes, and sort of help other Rotary clubs who maybe don't have the same compass, in terms of what they're doing. So it's people who want to help people, and we tend to work in those areas. And this year, mental health has become a major and primary focus.
Yeah, and we understand that. We see it, we're hearing about, and what I'm not excited about, but I'm grateful for, is it has become a conversation. The mental health has become one of the premier conversations, and that's why we name this show, to keep the conversation going, because I know in life things can't be fixed, but you can keep the conversation going and figure out how to fix it. Judy, there's a verbiage about the Rotary. What is the verbiage? You always say it.
Service above self.
That's it. That's what you.
And then there's always the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
That's incredible. That's incredible. You guys do an incredible job. And when we were doing our show live from Long Island, every week when I'd go in, the Rotary played a big part. The Rotary played a big part in supporting us. So we're so grateful. Teresa, before I let you, before I ask you to share a little bit about yourself and your purpose, I do want to ask Tom though, how do you get new members of the Rotary? Like if someone, where could people look for it? And, how do you publicize, or do you publicize to join?
We certainly do. We're always looking for new members. The 1,400 members that we have currently on Long Island, if you look at the average age, they're probably pushing 60, maybe somewhere in the 50s if we're lucky. So as an organization, if we want to continue to exist into the future, we need to get younger. Also, many hands make light work. 1,400 people are great, but we could easily double that number, and all of our clubs would be very happy and more robust. We look to form new clubs. Kind of a constant mission is to get new Rotary clubs in communities that aren't represented. But we do advertise in a sense. We have our Rotarians go out and try to recruit new members. But the greatest advertising is, wearing our Rotary shirts, where it is, there it is right there. And we're out in the community doing good works. And we've got our Rotary swag, as we call it, on, and people come up to us and say, who are you people and why are you cleaning up this park? And we tell them who we are, and we ask them to join. And nine times out of 10, we ask them to join us in doing the work. We don't ask them necessarily to join Rotary. And once we get them to start volunteering and helping, the next question is, well, how do I become a Rotarian? So we're always looking for people who want to help.
Yeah. And we do a lot of publicity for our speakers as well.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. But it's so fulfilling to help. It just, and maybe somebody doesn't realize how that feels until they start to work with you. And then they're like, oh my God, there are people that need people. Some people have it worse off than I do. And it's so grateful and so inspiring and really a wonderful thing to do. How do I join? So yeah, that's incredible, Tom. Thank you for all you do, Judy. We love you. You always, you've been living that service with us as well, with Rotary and with us as well. And we're
9 years.
Yes, 9 years. We're extremely grateful. We wouldn't be where we are without your help.
Thank you.
Teresa, so you and I have been friends for years and years and years. I'm not going to get into how we became friends, but share a little bit to our audience about what it is you do, and then we'll get into the health purpose. But talk a little bit about what you do.
Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. And I got to give it out to Judy. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Judy does incredible work.
Incredible.
And she does a lot of work. And I will say before, I'm sorry, Judy, Teresa, that, like Tom said and Judy said, it's a lot of work to get something off the ground and a vision and to keep it going. It's a lot of volunteer work. And, that's why we're so grateful to everybody. So go ahead, Teresa.
Oh, I don't even know where to start.
Well, tell
um,
us how you began. Tell us a little bit about how you began. I know the story briefly, and then what you do, and then we'll get into why we're really here.
I didn't even know I was a medium until later in life. I began with communicating with my grandfather's dog. My grandfather passed. I was in kindergarten, and I would go to school, and when I went to kindergarten it was full days. I come home and my father took his father's German Shepherd, Duchess, and she lived with us after my grandfather passed. And I love dogs. I love all animals. So I would sit with her every afternoon after school, and I would pet her and I'd talk to her and I'd love on her. And one day it just happened where she heard me and I heard her. I looked into her eyes and I can feel her pain. And I knew she felt my love. And that's how it opened up and it started. And she started to come back alive because prior to that, since my grandfather passed, she was a 150-pound German Shepherd. She was a huge German Shepherd. She lost probably a good 50 pounds through the grieving process of losing my grandfather. So I watched Duchess grieve, and she taught me what grieving felt like. She taught me what it was like to miss something that you deeply loved. And that was my introduction to communicating with animals. And then over the years, it opened up, and I would see my angels, and my angels would come to lay in bed with me. They would talk with me. They sit at the end of the bed. I have a complete tag team, and I met all these beautiful, interesting souls on the other side throughout my teenage years. And they really impacted me in a very positive way because I was a heavy young teenager, always very robust. And I didn't fit in. I didn't fit in anywhere, had no friends, and my family life was not good at all. I didn't want to get into that, but it was very challenging. That's where I learned how to put on a facade and just show everybody everything's okay. And as I got to be an adult, I went to school. I was a pre-vet major. It was great. I had a great time, but all the animals would talk to me. So I would be in class, and when we would be actually out on the farms, because I was a large animal livestock, I wanted to do horses and pigs and cows and dogs, and all animals really, except reptiles. I'm not a big reptile. Not really my thing. Um, and they would talk. They would disrupt the class. It would look like I was disruptive. So because they would never stop. My first time going into college, my first class was walking out into the swine farm, and I opened up a gate, and everybody was meeting up on the ridge. And as I walked through the pasture, all the pigs came out of waddling in the mud on a late August afternoon. It was sweltering hot, and pigs can't sweat. So the only way they are able to cool off is literally to muddle in the mud. They came out, and I never rode a pig before. I rode a pig that day, came right between my legs. It was an amazing experience, and also an eye-opener. I didn't know people didn't communicate with animals. I had no reference points till I went to college.
Wow.
And then over the years, I moved into my first apartment after college. It was haunted. His name was Al, and Al realized I was a communicator. I didn't even realize it at the time. Going back all these years, I might not look the age, but I got a few years on me. There were no role models. There wasn't like it is today, where psychic medium, the talk of spirits, the talk of interaction, conversation exists. And there are role models out there like myself. There are people who you can come and talk to. There are books. Really, none of that existed at that point. It's only within the last 20 years, 25 years, that you're seeing this advent of awareness coming about, where the world between the spirit world or the afterlife and the world we live are now converging and having conversations. So doing this professionally, I had a lot of clients come, and I always do have a lot of clients come, who lost their children. And with the advent and, of course, unfortunately, the thrust of fentanyl and drug addiction, depression, and bullying, I see a lot of family members showing up wanting to talk to their children.
And that's why
how the book came about.
That's why I wanted to share that. I think it's so important of that, from your story, to like I said, keep the conversation going. It's just, it's incredible. Teresa, we're going to do a whole show with you, me and you,
Okay.
because you and I could, you know, that you and we've done shows where we just like rattle and we just talk. I know, but we should start another, we should do that, continue to do that show. But you know, I try, when Judy came to me about Tom being on the show, you know, we always try to tie it together, and Teresa knows this, with strokes and aphasia. You know, when you have a brain attack, you know, it changes your mind, it changes how you think. And honestly, you know, there's been many stroke and aphasia survivors that have contemplated suicide. And that's really a tough conversation, as Teresa and Judy, and I'm sure Tom knows. But we thought it was really important to bring that to light on the show. Tom, Teresa, we'll get back to your, you know, you and I and talking. But Tom, on the press that Judy did, Tom will be discussing spreading the word and helping our district with issues of mental health, depression, and possibly suicide that could help not only in our area but all over the world. And once again, you know, when you have a stroke or aphasia, your brain is compromised. And that is really important. So Tom, tell us the purpose that and the mission of the Rotary with this.
Okay, very good. I'm happy to, and also I should have said thank you for having me today when we started earlier. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this and to get the word out. So Rotary International, there is a president who is elected each year. This year, the president is Gordon McAnally from Edinburgh, Scotland. He's a really incredible guy, very down-to-earth, humble, normal, easy to approach, but also just extremely honest and inspiring. So my class of district governors, 530 of us from around the world, we met with Gordon in September in Toronto and then again in January this year in Orlando, where we essentially get trained and we are taught the job of being district governor. And that's not the only time that we're trained. We do a lot of online training. We do a lot of training within our own districts, but that's the specific training that Rotary International puts on. So in January, Gordon stood up and he told his story about why mental health is going to be his primary initiative this year, and he wants all of us to support him. And he told the story about his brother, who was a very successful guy, happily married, young children. He went away on a business trip for a conference, and he never came home. He took his life. And none of his friends or his family had any idea that he was suffering. They all, of course, asked themselves, why didn't we see this? What could we have done? You know, how did we miss the signs? And the reality of it is that in our world specifically, or certainly in our country, but I think in our world too, you know, we've sort of been conditioned not to talk about mental health issues. It is a stigma. It's a blight on your family. It's something to be embarrassed about. In many cases, it was an employment issue. If you were a police officer or maybe a teacher and you confessed to having mental health issues, you could lose your job. You certainly would get pressure from people who, you know, wouldn't want you in the community carrying a gun, or you wouldn't want you educating their children. You know, not everybody. Some more people are enlightened than others, but you know, there are people that would just say, I don't want that person exposed to my child. So Gordon's initiative to create awareness, you know, there's two different levels. There's what can we do to help those folks that are suffering from mental illness and make them aware of all of the treatments available and different organizations that are out there. But the first part of it is to destigmatize talking about it. So he's created we have what are known as Rotary action groups throughout the world, coalitions of Rotarians around the world that create a group that works together to create resources and information for Rotary clubs around the world that want to do something in a particular area. So the mental health Rotary action group, they have these kits called Don't Bottle It Up. And it's a picture that you're going to launch a social media campaign. It's a picture of somebody holding a Yeti cooler, thermos. and it says, don't bottle it up. And then you tell your story. I'm not going to bottle it up anymore. I'm going to talk about my struggle with mental health or my struggle with a family member with mental health. And we're trying to get all 62 Rotary clubs, I'd love if every member of every club did it, but, one or two members at a minimum to put their face and their story on these social media outreach, flyers, get them out on all of the social media channels individually and the Rotary Club in the district, and start to get people thinking about it. Somebody at one of the meetings I went to when I was explaining this threw her hand up and said, we should do this. We should get it to go viral the way, I think it was the ALS challenge with the ice bucket.
Yeah, the ice.
Instead of a Yeti cooler, we should have people standing there with a bottle of soda shaking it and undo the top and let it explode. And then, do a little video thing saying, I'm not going to bottle it up anymore. I'm going to let it out and tell the story, whatever the story is. Very quick thing, a 30-second vignette or whatever. And, that's, again, the way Rotarians think, the way they work. We have this campaign that a group in England came up with, that the Rotary Action Group has been spreading around the world, that the president of Rotary International has, embraced. And somebody here in Great Neck looks at that and says, we can even make it better. We can even take it to the next level. And instead of just a still photo that we're putting out, we can make a video, and we can get people all around the world, not just Rotarians, to copy this like they did with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. So our initiative this year as a district is a couple of things. Number one, we've created a committee on mental health that has three different areas. The first area of focus is this destigmatization and this social media campaign. The second area is youth outreach. So Rotary has what are known as interact clubs, which are Rotary clubs in the school that students form, and it's high school students. So we have 40 interact clubs on the island. We're going to try to get in through those interact clubs into the schools with the kits that are made through the Rotary Action Group for youth, working with youth that are struggling with depression, bullying, bulimia, anorexia, depression, etc. Get into the schools with those kits. We're not trained clinicians, though, so we are not going to go in and offer counseling. We're going to partner with all of the different mental health groups that exist, that are trained, that are clinically competent and capable of talking to the kids. We're going to be the boots on the ground. We're going to be the action people that get them into the schools, that start the dialogue. And then the third area is outreach to veterans, law enforcement, and first responders. Again, another group that has a just disproportionately high percentage of suicide in their group, that and there's a lot of reasons for it. Again, there's pressure on those people not to confess to weakness, not to share, issues that they're suffering with. And, there's a threat to their job if they do. So we have to figure out, how to make mental health issues just another disease. It's a brain injury. It's a brain disease, whatever you, and again, I'm an insurance person. So when I start talking about this, I'm using words and expressions and saying things that are, I'm sure, the wrong thing to say in the medical community, in the mental health community, but I'm saying it, I'd like to say innocently, and not intending to harm anybody or hurt anybody's feelings. So, mental health is some sort of brain injury, brain disease. We have to treat it that way. We as a society have to be able to talk about it that way. We have to be able to talk to the people that are suffering and the family members that are suffering, get everybody to share their stories, so that it is no longer something that we bottle up and then eventually you commit suicide or something else.
And what Teresa was talking about when she was telling her story, and I'm going to let her continue a little bit on that, is that she didn't think she had anybody to talk to. So the fact that you all are opening that door and asking and just making it available for everybody to see that there are people that want to listen. And I appreciate the fact that you're speaking and you're sharing that this is new for you, and the same with me. We don't claim to be doctors at all. We don't know anything. We're just keeping the conversation going and making it a conversation so people hear about what it is we want to do. And we love the fact that you're on and Teresa's on today to keep the conversation going. Teresa, so I know that you tried to commit suicide. Am I
Several
correct?
times.
Several times, three times, I think.
Yes.
Three times. I remember that from our show we did. So share a little bit about, you know, your mindset when you try to commit suicide, and also if you had someone say to you, because I know it was a different era back then, where it was bottled up, nobody was talking about it. So but how would you have handled it differently? And my other thing is, how did you write this book?
Um, I don't know if I would have handled it differently because there were other components to it. And back then in today's society, entirely different. So I think we need to talk more about today's society and how do we not only continue the conversation, but how do we start it? How do we get to that point where we've gained the trust, we've gained access to getting beyond the facade or the illusion or the mask that whoever you are, whether you're an adolescent or an adult, show and share your true issues, your true self. And that I think is a very big component. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, was to start getting beyond, there's an old saying that says, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. And those closed doors are not just within the family unit, they're within yourself, they're within the individual. So when I do my readings, because I am a spiritual medium and I do connect with loved ones who live in heaven, and I speak with them about how did they get there and what happened when they got there and what did they learn. And those three aspects are very important, because coming back and having that information and sharing it does help other people who are struggling with, whether it's fear, suicide, stroke, and they've seen their life totally change and they can't handle the change, or whatever other issues, whether they're policemen, whether they're firemen, whether they're teachers, any walk of life now struggles with something. And we live in a very difficult society, and there's a lot of pressures, there's a lot of fears. So with that all being said, I wrote the book to start opening people's eyes that there is a purpose, that there is a reason why you're here, and that we're all interconnected. And it's just not about you and what you're going through, it's what you provide to other people. What do you learn, and how do you share that, what you've learned, so that other people can be helped and you can be helped. So it's a dynamic, interactive exchange. And when you read the book, it talks about how everything is interconnected, and there is no, I don't like the term coincidence. I don't like the term, oh, it just happened. Everything is coordinated. You have free will. We all have free will. And it's that free will that allows us to make decisions. But sometimes we're not in the right frame of mind to make a good decision. That's why you have a spiritual tag team. And I speak all about that in the book, how our angels affect our lives, how they leave signs, how they leave other people into our lives to give us information, to help us along our journey. We are not alone, not only with family, friends, society, but we're also a spiritual family that guides us with assistance. So how many times you're out and all of a sudden somebody says something to you, you're like, that's odd, that's exactly what I was just thinking. Or something you're watching on TV all of a sudden pops up as you're channel surfing, and it's exactly what you're going through. Spirit guides that information into your life so that it helps you awaken to, I can get help. There are people out there. Or if I can't get help, maybe I can help myself by dialing the suicide prevention hotline. Or maybe with Tom's purpose with the Rotary, maybe I can connect with somebody in Rotary. Maybe I did some volunteer work. There was somebody there I felt really connected to, where I felt like I could reach out and speak with. So that's the continuing the dialogue. And I think we need to start that in many different ways, in many different aspects, because too many people are so good at putting up the facade, the illusion of I'm okay. And by the way, most of the people who tell you I'm okay, the ones who are the leaders, the ones who really do a lot of work, are often the ones who are the biggest illusionists.
Who's that woman that was like this big purse, or she was a big fashion. She was in Tom, do you know who I'm talking about? She committed suicide without anybody
Oh,
knowing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The young lady, her Spade, Kate Spade.
Kate
Yes,
Spade.
Kate Spade.
Kate Spade.
Yeah.
Like that's a prime example because she's in the media, she's in the eye, and she and I would just love to know, not that I love to know, but I think it would be important to know like why and what, what was going through her brain. And I tell you, it was normally myself, I just would have came on the show and not said anything about what's going on in my personal life. But at 60, I'm finally 60 years old, but I said, I need to let people in to share with them that life is not perfect. Life is hard, but we all need to have a conversation about it. We all need to help each other, and we all need to share how we have a right to share how we're feeling, and we have a right to voice our opinion in life. And I don't know if many of the people or children especially know that they can have that, they have that right. Even children. I was watching on TV the other day, I forget who it was, but they said, like, I like to have my children be able to speak their minds, to be able to have the right to share their opinion on things. And that's so important because children get trained, they get culture, they get they're formatting their foundation in life. I think it's so important to have a good foundation in life. Me, I've always been airy and floating and all that through my entire life. Judy's laughing, but I always tried to look for, my stroke was about me being stopped and saying to me, you're not listening, Renee. I want you to listen. I have a purpose. And I was like, and I don't know how you feel about this, Tom, but I did have an out of body experience and spoke to God, and I said, whatever you want me to do, God, whatever you want me to do, please just put me back down in my body. I have too much work to do on this earth. And he said to me, or he or she, my mom would say, yes, but you always have to remember you work for me. You always have to stay in tune. And it was hard to peel back the onion layers, to get to the place where I am today. It's been I had a stroke at the age of 26. So, it's been many years that you have to keep working on it. And one of the things that I really hold dear to me right now is I have a prayer circle on Sunday nights with two dear friends, and one of them, their daughter, wrote this book, Trust Yourself. We had her on the show, and really, I need to look internally to, review what has happened, and say, what part did I play in the situation, and what part did the other people play in the situation, and how do we move forward to it. But getting to that point, it took me 60 years to get to that point. It took me having a stroke to get to that point. And I really love the fact that this effort that you guys are doing, Tom, in the Rotary with the bottles, like that's something that I think is catching to children and catching to people, because we all drink soda. So I mean, where are you with that? I mean, I know you shared a little bit about it, but how are you going to make it bigger for us?
So we're still in the organizational phases. We're building out our committee. We've got, several, probably 10 or 12 people on the committee already overseeing the entire effort, and then each of those three subcommittees. So we're spreading the word. The good news is that, Gordon, the president of RI, he's introduced this, but it seems like the people that are going to follow him are going to want to continue it.
Good.
Mental health certainly slots into multiple of those focus groups we talked about earlier. And then the incoming DG behind me and the one behind her, both of them, Beverly James and Lydia Wells, they want to continue this initiative as well. So I'm not looking at this like we've got to rush into it and get it done right away. I'm looking into it as we have to establish a really strong foundation, and we've got to get the team put together, because nothing gets done by one person. It's a team. And if we don't have a good team, with a good vision, then it's not going to go anywhere. So right now we're building it out. I'm hoping, by the end of this year or early January, we can start to get those social media campaigns launched. I want to go back to something Teresa said earlier. She mentioned, calling the suicide hotline. So Gordon, again, the president of RI, one of the things he says is he's talking about mental health to encourage all of us to get Rotarians involved, is the mental health system isn't broken. It hasn't been built yet. And that's really a truth in
Say that
our
again,
country.
say that again, say that again, because I
It's,
think that's an important,
yeah,
that's like an Oprah, like, okay, stop and say it again.
the mental health system isn't broken. It hasn't been built yet. And it's not just our country, it's all around the world. And one of the major steps in the right direction and a sign of government support is that they've just introduced the new 988 number, which is a federal number, a national hotline for suicide. So if you're sitting at home and you're having suicidal thoughts and you don't know where to turn, 988 needs to become as well known as 411, as 911. We need to be able to know, everybody needs to know that if they're struggling, call that number. And there are trained clinicians 24/7 that will be on that phone to talk to people. And maybe that, something as simple as that, gets that person to the next day. And, little victories like that, we get the person through. So I think it's important for people to know that you have to have hope. Our theme this year for Rotary is create hope in the world. Again, that was what Gordon introduced, and it really led into the mental health issue. But when you go to bed at night and when you get up in the morning, if you don't have hope rather, it makes for a pretty miserable life. Yeah. So just giving people some hope, and maybe that 988 number. We're going to be working with the Long Island Coalition. I forget their name now. The Long Island Risk Center, I think is the name, that are promoting this. But they're going to come to one of our meetings in October. They're going to speak about it, and we, all 62 clubs, are going to try and help them promote the fact that 988 number exists and the important function it'll serve. So to answer your question, I do hope that this is something that will be going on 5 and 10 years from now, that our district will have embraced this and found a way to make it very effective, and that it will continue, indefinitely. Right now, we're building.
I will tell you that, I always speak what comes to me. And I really think that you and Teresa should stay connected, because Teresa is like experienced it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's someone live that is right in front of you that could really give you some insight into what it feels. And that's what we talk about on this show. Like I just want to be a part of conversation with the government, with to be an ambassador for the United States of America. Because I want the insurance companies, I want the doctors, I want the people to know how it feels to suffer a stroke. Like you can't tell me because you never experienced it. So I really would love for you and Teresa to stay connected. And also I want to share with you that I just watched the Tamron Hall show. I love that show. I think she's an incredible broadcaster. She had someone, and I'm going to share it with both of you. I'm not sure if you saw it, Teresa, but I'm going to share it with both of you because I think it's someone that you need to connect with. She was a major broadcaster. I'm not sure of her name. This other woman that guest on Teresa's show, on a Tamron show. And she was working around the clock. But then she got pregnant without knowing. And she kind of like was delusional. She didn't know what she was doing. And I'm not going to share the whole story because I don't want to give it incorrectly. But I will tell you that she went to the police officers and she asked them, I need help. Something's wrong with me. She went to the ER. She said, something's wrong with me. And they didn't find anything wrong with her. She was asking for help and they kept sending her away. And then she was arrested. So my point is that her mission and passion is for the health, to get that voice out. And I think it would be really important for you to connect with her and just start the conversation with her, because she would be a huge, she's on the, she's back into the industry. She does the GMA3 now. So she's a wonderful spokesperson for this type of thing. And I think really you should reach out to her. I really
We
think.
would, we would love to have anybody that can bring value to our committee, passion, energy, enthusiasm. So I would love, Judy, if you can connect me via email with Teresa. Ellen Ritz is
I
the
will.
director of NAMI for Suffolk and Nassau County, NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. Ellen is not a Rotarian, but Ellen is sort of an at-large member of our committee, so you don't have to be in Rotary to assist us and to work with us. RenéMarie, I would also say to you, I see that you have this passion for aphasia and stroke, and you're reaching a particular group with this internet TV show, but you should think about joining Rotary. Because if you join Rotary and then you pour your passion into creating a Rotary action group on stroke and aphasia, when you look at the 7 areas of focus in the action groups, there's maybe about 40 of them. More than half of the action groups are all in the fighting disease category. That's where people have a passion. They're creating these groups. You could join together with, hundreds of Rotarians around the world working to create an action group that provides the resources to the 1.4 million Rotarians and the 40,000 clubs. And it's an incredible way to reach out to people. I use polio eradication as an example. We have provided over 2.5 billion, I believe it is 2.5 billion vaccinations, 2.5 billion children in, well over 30, 40 years. And it's virtually eradicated. And that is the effect that Rotarians can have. Now, we don't do it alone. We partner with other groups,
Right.
but we're the ones that bring the energy, the passion, the idea, and the boots on the ground. So you really should think about creating a Rotary action group on stroke and aphasia.
I will definitely. Judy would be wonderful.
I'll be on your case.
Yes, she'll be on my case. Yes. Thank you, Tom. I believe, like Teresa said, that everything happens for a reason. And that's why we all came together. And we would love to have you both back on the show in 3 to 6 months so that we can continue this conversation. So this is not something that's going to stop. This is about us bringing light to a very, very important subject, and the world is just crazy right now, and health and mental health really needs to be at the forefront of the conversation. So we do have to go out, but Teresa, did you have a last minute closing? I'll let you both close with something, and then we need to go because we have another show.
Yeah, what I'd like to say to everybody who's listening, if you're not having any issues, you might know somebody who does. And the issue might be that you don't know that they have an issue. I think we need to start the conversation with, how are you feeling? How are things going? I know work is stressful, or you have a personal issue. I think we need to spend a little bit more time personally getting engaged with other people, whether it's family members, friends, people we don't even know, that you walk across. Maybe you meet them in the supermarket and they're not looking very happy, or they look like they're struggling. A simple smile. We need to bring light and love back into the world. And it's as simple sometimes as a smile. Sometimes it says, I see you. And I see you, and I'm going to hold your hand and say hi. Sometimes that's how we start it. Yeah. It's just a simple hi.
Yeah.
So I want the rest of the world, pick up my book, read the book, call me for a reading. But here's the other thing. Do it in your daily life.
I'm sorry, Teresa, say it again, because I interrupted you.
No, do it in your daily life. Not only ask for help, but give help. We're both humans, and we're here to love each other, both receiving it and giving it.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa. We're gonna continue this conversation, you and I, and Judy and everybody. Tom, what's your final few words?
I would close with, it's very funny that Teresa just used the supermarket example. That's an example I use when I go and I talk to clubs about the importance of destigmatizing and talking about mental health. You walk down the grocery aisle and you look miserable. You look like you have been through the ringer, and a neighbor sees you and they come over and they put their hand on your shoulder and they say, what's going on? And you tell them the story that your spouse is home. They just had hip replacement surgery, and you're taking care of a million different things. You're exhausted. And what happens? They typically reach out and hug you. They show up the next day with casserole dishes, neighbors come around to help you. You know, rewind that story now, that example. And when the neighbor comes up to you, you're not dealing with a hip replacement surgery. You're dealing with a child that just attempted to commit suicide, or a spouse that has schizophrenia and they're in the middle of a terrible episode, and you don't share it because you are, you know, taught to bottle it up, or you do share it, and the neighbor, they sort of take a step back. They don't hug you. They don't come the next day with casserole dishes because the majority of people are just so uncomfortable dealing with mental health issues. So we need to change that, and by destigmatizing, you know, the whole idea of talking about mental health, I think we can have an impact. So my closing would be, my email address is thomasjohncrowley@gmail.com. Anybody who's interested in getting involved in this initiative, in joining our committee, I would encourage you to shoot me an email, and I would love to talk to you. You do not have to be a trained clinician. You just have to be somebody that has a connection that wants to help.
Has a passion too. Has a passion for it. Yeah.
And thank you for having me today. I appreciate it very much.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. It was an incredible kickoff to our premiere show. And thank you, Judy, for when Judy comes and she's like passionate about something, she's like, no, Renee, we're going to do this. We're going to figure it out. We're going to do this. And, you know, you do an incredible job, Judy. Yeah. I mean, the foundation wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And Jim, you in the back studio, we couldn't do without you as well. And life is, you know, you're alive, you know, things are not perfect. So we just have to move forward and do it. When we stream this back, we'll add the intro and all that kind of stuff, but that wasn't important. This conversation was really important. I really want to thank Teresa and Tom and Judy and Jim, and everybody for watching. We're really blessed to have the opportunity to be here and to share with you. And thank you so much for letting us in. And I'm working this premiere season, letting you into my life a little bit more. I've let you in on things that, you know, I had to, but I want to let you in a little bit further because I am working on my movie. I am working on my book. I really want to bring people hope, that you can make it as long as you have people around you and in their faith. Faith is a really important piece to what helped me to be where I am today and to be alive. Some people are, you know, living, but it's really important to live with life, to be alive, to enjoy your life. And that's a whole different thing. I just watched a show called Living 100 Living to 100 on Netflix. It's a wonderful show. I definitely recommend everybody watch it because it teaches you that community and people are really one of the parts what keep people alive. And the other thing was like just walking and like it's a wonderful show. So I really recommend people watch it. Thank you, everybody. We have to go because our next guest is in the studio. We always blow kisses if you feel comfortable on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody.
God bless you all.
Bye.
Hey, Judy, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy.
To the moon and back.
Yo no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo, yo no sé lo que va ti. No me puedes oír, no me puedes escuchar. No me puedes escuchar, llorar, llorar. No me puedes escuchar.